Hey everyone, Gen X Jeff returns. We are going to speak about Satanism, spirituality, and other religions. You guys know the drill. If you have questions, just put them in the chat. We'll get to them eventually. So tell us about your Satanism journey. It's a little bit different than like devil worship, right?
Um, well, semantics. I mean, it is. You could say I worship the devil or the figure of. I don't believe in an actual devil.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, I guess it depends on who you talk to. If somebody told me they were a non-theistic devil worshiper, I would I would know what they're talking about. I
Yeah, I just see
actually
like
did meet a theistic Satanist the other day. Um, we started talking a little bit. I was hoping to get more into it and find out what that side's all about.
so a theistic Satanist. I'm guessing is someone who takes virgins and goats out to graveyards and sacrifices them to a literal devil in their mind.
I don't know. I don't think he does. Um, he's a mental health therapist.
Oh, hope
They
not.
they meet in a private home with men and do rituals, but I don't know more than that.
Hmm. Interesting occupation and I guess religious belief there.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know.
it's
What
wrong.
what's a theistic Satanist then?
They actually believe in a supernatural Satan.
Okay. And with the Temple of Satan, that's what you're registered with, right?
Well, it's what's it called? See, I forgot. It's Satanic Temple.
Satanic Temple. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I initially like I'm on their membership roster, but I don't I'm not a part of them anymore at all. They're the woke Satanist.
All right. And what in the Church of Satan? What's the difference between the Church of Satan and them?
The Church of Satan was the one founded by Anton LaVey back in the 60s, 1966.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first official satanic church or satanic religion to kind of be recognized. He's the one that wrote the Satanic Bible
Mm-hmm.
that most people like. I don't know, through the 70s, 80s, and on, it was like the definitive version of Satanism. And then the Satanic Temple came along, I don't know what date, probably somewhere in the 2000s or 2010s, and created their version of it. And they were supposedly the first to get recognized by the IRS as an official religion. But the Satanic Temple, the Church of Satan had what's called the grotto system, which were individual chapters of the Church of Satan. And there have been individual grottos that were recognized previously by the IRS, like in certain cities. But the Satanic Temple has the claim for being the first officially recognized satanic religion by the IRS outside of these isolated grottos from the Church of Satan. Which that's kind of what initially that was one of the draws initially for me was that it was officially recognized. So it had the legal protection of religion. And if I was kind of on the fence about it, that definitely tipped me over to like, oh well, if the IRS recognizes it and it can it's officially sanctioned by the state,
Mm-hmm.
that makes it even more alluring to me to get involved in
Why is that?
because it has it has religious protection, so I can't be discriminated against for being a Satanist. Just like you couldn't discriminate against a Jehovah's Witness, a Christian, Mormon, Scientology, whatever other religions. So before that, I could call myself a Satanist, but if somebody wanted to discriminate against me before of it, they could. Just like you could discriminate against gay people before the Supreme Court ruled that you couldn't.
I mean, there's
So
technically a
I guess
law that you.
having that state backing does mean something.
I mean, they legally are not supposed to discriminate against you, but I'm sure it still can happen. All right, like
Well,
you're
they
not supposed
could,
to.
but you have a case to bring it to the courts.
Hmm,
I mean,
interesting.
individuals still could. I don't think em- employers could, or housing, or businesses, or anything like that. I'm not up on discrimination law, really, but I know whatever categories are protected, my religion is included in that.
You're breaking up a little bit. your picture is at least. It's probably my end because I have weak signal. It says. I mean, at the
Oh
place
yeah.
I work at right now, they're pretty against Satanism stuff being there. I don't know if it's like they realize it's actual official religion or they care, but I
What,
remember one.
how
What's
are
that?
they against it? How does that manifest?
And written in the policy, it says like no clothing, no jewelry, nothing like that promoting Satanism.
Specifically Satanism?
Satanism. That's what it says. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't know. I would pass that in front of a lawyer.
Well, I'm not a
Because if they
Satanist,
said it
so
about Christian, like no wearing crosses or having anything specifically Christian, I don't think that would pass.
no, that wouldn't fly with a lot of people.
So yeah, they just may be ignorant.
Man, I remember this one client. He was reading some. It was like a spirituality book. It wasn't even like related to Satanism or anything. And his roommate got all offended, and they made a big old deal about it. And they moved the roommate out. You know, it's kind of ridiculous. I don't. It wasn't even like a big deal. I think it was something to do with magic or something like that. And the roommate just freaked out. Thought he was, summon a demon in the room or something. I guess I don't know.
Well, yeah, and the Satanic Temple, I believe, has a strong presence in Arizona, Tucson, in fact.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
remember like
that's
going
something
to.
they could be interested in.
I don't know. I mean, it's just really atheism, right? With just the Satan as kind of like a symbol for debauchery and hedonism and things like that, isn't it? Like kind of like doing what you want.
People think it's doing what you want, but I think all adults can do what they want, like within the law. We like so you don't need a religion to be an adult and do whatever you want. But I think there's also responsibility that comes along with the freedom to do what you want. But as far as the atheism versus non-theistic thing, it's subtle and it's semantic, but having been an atheist my whole life, there's definitely a difference for me between being a Satanist and being an atheist. They're not just interchange. I don't feel like, oh, just an atheist that emulates the archetype of Satan. I do feel that there's definitely a difference between embracing the non-theistic concept of Satan versus simply being an atheist. So technically, it's non-theistic. I don't believe in any supernatural beings or entities, but internally, there's a world of difference for me between being a non-theistic Satanist and being an atheist.
So I bring this up. Flow State says, I'm pretty sure the IRS is the real church of Satan.
Perhaps.
Flow State, he has a channel himself and he's an ESTP. Well, thanks for watching, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
So,
hi, Flow State. I think I've seen him before.
yeah, I know he's pretty against C.S. Joseph, I hear.
That's the type guy.
Yeah, he's a bit of a narcissist and charges like $300+ for typing sessions and stuff like
Dang, there
that.
are therapists that don't get those rates.
I know. Yeah. Someone who's actually licensed and stuff. And this was several years ago. I don't know what he's charging now. I remember I had a guy on who got typed by him, and yeah, it's kind of weird.
I guess if the market, there's a market for it.
So what appeals to you about Satan, like the image of Satan?
Well, first I'll say he's cool. he's ever since Paradise Lost, or actually since the romantic Shelley Blake, that crowd, there's been an appeal from Milton's character of Satan. For me, he's just cool. I love the Baphomet statue. I love the iconography. I've always been, I was into rock music and I was a goth growing up, so it showed up in some of my music. I was into the occult for a little bit in my early 20s, 1920. So that satanic aesthetic has always had kind of an appeal to me. But outside of just being an aesthetic, as an archetype, he's the ultimate wild man, which I was very involved in the men's movement in the 90s, where the wild man was kind of the central figure and you were trying to get in touch with your wild man. I think being involved in the men's movement now, I just did my new warrior training. They've kind of moved away from the wild man. It's more like the tame man now. And so Satan is kind of still a way to stay in touch with the roots of that wild man archetype. And he's also like the ultimate dark father. And with all my daddy issues and my own relationship with an absent father, all of that rolled into one archetype is very appealing for me. I don't hate on him for charging what he can, just that he's full of shit. So he's a fraud, or what do you call a grifter?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he like typed his newborn son in the womb an INTJ, and that's where like, okay, there's something wrong with this dude here. We're referring to C.S. Joseph for people who don't know. And I was probably going to ask you now. So you're not spiritual at all, but you claim to have some level of spirituality, which still kind of confuses me.
Yes, I am. Well, I'm trying to be spiritual.
Not trying. Okay.
That's one difference from atheism, because as an atheist, I didn't entertain any concept of spirituality at all. It was all superstition and nonsense to me. But as a Satanist, whatever spirituality there is, it put me in touch with. I'm more open to the concept of spirituality, and I'm trying to find my own version of what that is. And the closest I could come so far is it's kind of the religion of art, um, literature, music for me, and there's always kind of been an overlap between art and religion. I think religion is a form of art or based on art, and some people could find what people find in religion in art. So I think in art, in great literature, in the music that I love, that kind of takes me to another state. Those are the little seeds or touchstones to a spirituality that people have always found in great art throughout the ages. And I would include in that the religions, like the Bible. Some people find it in the Quran, Buddhist teachings. So there's a point I think that art can reach that touches on the same parts of us that religion touch on, or that people turn to religion to fortify.
Mm-hmm.
What music do I listen to? Well, rock music, classic rock, Rolling Stones, Velvet Underground, The Doors from the '60s, and I think if I had a musical roots at all, it would be in the late '70s no wave movement in New York City. Glenn Branca and Sonic Youth and Swans came out of that. Swans is probably my favorite satanic band, although they're not overtly satanic. They feel the most satanic to me when I listen to them. And then I grew up with indie and alternative rock as well. So Pixies, Dinosaur Jr., and Sonic Youth was a part of that as well. So I guess those are my main rock roots. And then the generations of bands that came after them, like Mercury Rev, Mogwai. One I really like is Godspeed You Black Emperor, post rock.
Are there any actual bands that are affiliated with like the Satanic Temple or anything like that?
Supposedly Rolling Stones had
Really?
some affinity with satanic. Oh, expecting more metal. Yeah, metals to me is kind of, I don't know. It's okay to listen to in the background, but it's kind of simplistic and generic. Like what every metal song sounds like the next. Although you could say the same thing about a band like Dinosaur Jr. And the whole metal aesthetic too. It's a little too. I'm more auditory than I am visual, and I think the metal aesthetic relies a lot on the visual. Um, I can't explain why why I like the music I like, and I mean I'm okay with metal. Some of the metal videos are cool. They have some good satanic imagery in them, but auditorily, I like more of I really like Glenn Branca is probably my favorite. The noise rock bands that came out of the work he was doing, like Sonic Youth. It's just more artistic, more cerebral. I don't know, it connects with my mind better. Thurston Moore is probably my favorite artist. I saw the Stones about 10 years ago. Great show. Definitely believe they're satanic. Well, they had the album, the Satanic Majesty's Request, which people used to find all kind of satanic connections in there. But they did the same thing with Sgt. Pepper and the Beatles.
You think
But
the
there's
Beatles were satanic?
supposedly interviews with Mick Jagger or reports where he was connected with Church of Satan. But this is all gossip. Don't rely on me at all for any of this. That was before my generation, or at the very beginning of my generation. Before me, for sure.
I know a lot of bands, especially like metal bands, have been kind of tied to Satanism and even like have satanic kind of like, I don't know, like nature to them, like Black Sabbath, and then it was like Slayer. Then I don't know, the whole satanic shock rock thing kind of went out of style lately.
Yeah, because Satan's cool. I'm not. I'm not surprised to find people using that imagery.
Yeah, it's kind of funny if you actually read the Bible. Satan doesn't really do anything bad in the Bible. It's just God doing like these terrible things all the time, and kind of Satan gets the rap of it.
Especially the Old Testament,
Yeah, for
where he was
sure.
just the adversary, and the serpent in Genesis there's no connection to him with Satan in the Bible itself. That was made later.
Yeah, a lot of people associate the Satan like was Lucifer, who was different from Satan, and he was kind of like bringing the light and bringing the news to mankind. And they ate the forbidden fruit, and God got pissed off at them for that. But they kind of found their own salvation through the fruit, and were kicked out of paradise, or at least what they were told was paradise.
And I do like the Eden story, the Genesis story, a lot as a I guess as a fable or an allegory, and I relate to the serpent a lot. I would definitely, if in that particular setting and cast of characters, I would definitely be the serpent. I relate to him more than I do Adam, Eve, or God. But I don't see him as Satan. I don't see him as having anything to do with Satan.
Yeah.
They were in their 70s when I saw them. They were so insanely energetic. That's a good description of one of the appeals of Satanism to me too, is the energy. I don't know how it's even possible that that's what I like about rock. It is that it has an energy to it. When I first discovered rock and started listening to it, it represented emotional states inside of me, mental states inside of me that I had never encountered before until I encountered them in the sound of rock music.
I remember watching Iron Maiden, who's been accused of being Satanist, and because they had one song like "Number of the Beast" or one album "Number of the Beast," and it kind of got contributed to him. Like about 20 years ago, that guy, the main singer, Bruce Dickinson, he was really energetic. Then about 10 years later, he slowed way down. Do you think like the Rolling Stones made a Faustian deal and they can live forever or something like that? Because they just keep going, man. I don't know
Keith
how
Richards definitely keeps going. I don't know how much of that is Faustian deal and how much of that is chemical, but I haven't really followed the latest Stones. I know there's that Scorsese movie I've been meaning to watch of one of their more recent concerts, but after the late 70s, I guess early 80s, probably late 70s, because that one album they did in the early 80s was just a compilation of leftover tracks from the 70s. But I kind of quit following them. They kind of plateaued for me at about the end of the 70s, turn into the 80s, which is about the same time the no wave scene was going on. So I haven't really followed their modern stuff much.
Was the no wave scene like a rebellion against the new wave scene?
Kind of. It was a very short-lived artistic movement in New York City specifically. There was no wave music, cinema, probably visual arts. And it was just a blip, but it was kind of because punk kind of deconstructed or went back to the roots of rock in a different way because progressive rock had become so complex and technical and complicated. So they were looking to go back to the simple roots of rock. And no wave was kind of a further deconstruction of what punk was trying to do. It was basically no. It was atonal, a lot of noise, a lot of alternate tunings, minor keys, not even a lot of melody. It was more textural and ambient than people actually trying to make music. And there's the cinema stuff I can't speak to as much, but there's I think it's called not Blank Generation, Blank something. There's a good documentary on New Wave Cinema that's free on YouTube, and it chronicles that whole scene. New York City was in a specific state at the time. It was going bankrupt. It was on the verge of bankruptcy. It was decaying. Nobody had any money. They were all like squatting or living. All of these artists were living from like at the edge of precarity, and it was kind of this community of people that were helping each other to make music and art and cinema despite the conditions that everybody was living in at the time. So it's kind of like how art can rise from the ashes or from those extreme conditions.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture Sonic Youth. I've heard them before, but I can't remember what they sound like exactly.
They were the band that, well, several bands. Nirvana was like the tail end of the movement that Sonic Youth helped to start. Dinosaur Jr., I would say, Pixies. And Kurt Cobain has cited all of those as his influences. I think he toured with Sonic Youth. They have a documentary called the 1991, The Year Punk Broke, that documents their tour. I think he wanted Dinosaur Jr. to tour with him. He explicitly cites the Pixies as one of his major influences on how he constructs his songs. So when I hear Nirvana, I hear the tail end of the kind of music I was already listening to a few years before they came out.
So it kind of weathered out and became grunge then, basically?
Yeah. I think it got mainstream with Nirvana, and then all the grunge bands took off after that. But it was a New York sound. Well, Sonic Youth was the New York City sound, and then Massachusetts was Dinosaur Jr. and Pixies. So it was kind of a New England liberal sound. A lot of them were college dropouts. They had gone to college a semester or two and got disaffected by college and dropped out to start bands or make music. Sonic Youth is an art band from New York City that kind of rose out of the ashes of No Wave and what Glenn Branca was doing, who was also an artist. He did kind of this rock theater. He created symphonies with like 16, 20-something electric guitars. And so they were doing all this experimental music in the late 70s in New York. And Sonic Youth kind of took that and shaped it into a pop format that the other bands were able to use for their inspiration. Yeah, concerts are big rituals. That's a good point. People ask me about satanic rituals, and do I have any satanic rituals? And I really don't. I'm not a ritual person, but a rock concert would be an excellent example of one if I had to put one together.
How was it a ritual exactly?
Well, it has a ritualized format. They're specific. Like when you go to a rock concert, you know what I don't go to a lot of rock concerts myself because of my ears, but you know what you're going into. There's a format to it. But I think the communal connection that comes from having everybody participating in that activity, and like there's something that transcends the individual. You kind of become part of the communal. And I'd say the same thing like at a rave maybe, or a dance club. A huge crowd all chanting the same thing in unison over and over again with passion. There. I think Flo addressed it better than I even could.
Yeah, it must be like a FE thing. I don't pick up on that kind of stuff. Like people go to concerts and stuff. Like, don't you feel the energy? Don't you feel like everything going on? Like, not really.
You don't get lost in the vibe?
Not really. That's why it's kind of like everyone. I just see everybody is jumping. Like, I don't know. Like everyone, like I could feel what everybody else is feeling. You don't feel it? Like, not really. I don't know if that's like mostly like an INTJ thing, or is that possible autism? Or
I think that's possible autism.
Yeah,
because I do that. I call that the herd instinct. I don't feel that, or social confluence. I don't feel that with a lot of things either. But I feel it with concerts, depending on the concert. It has to be a band that I'm into. And I feel it with Mardi Gras too. There's just a vibe in the air that takes
Mm-hmm.
over, and everybody kind of just catches it and becomes this larger kind of super organism.
I forgot who it was. I heard it's Hitler. I don't think it was Hitler, but somebody said like once you get in large groups, people stop thinking and they start feeling. You know.
Yeah, it kind of is that. Like I can move in and out of it. Like I don't get completely swept away by it. But I have a friend that gave an example of he was walking somewhere in Seattle and there was a protest, and he didn't
Mm-hmm.
even it was like a few blocks away, but he could hear it and kind of feel it. And he didn't even know what it was about or what it was for, but he just suddenly had the urge to join in it. He just got swept with this urge to join the crowd and become part of whatever it was. And I don't feel that. If there's something like that going on around me, I have to consciously understand what's going on and intentionally choose to become part of it. I don't have this emotional urge to just get swept up in it.
Yeah, something I don't get. I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword because I can't really have a communal bond with people, but at the same time, I don't get swept up in their stupid shit. Really.
Do you feel it when you're watching movies? Sometimes it happens with me when I'm watching movies, and I'll like sync up with certain people around me. Like if you and your friends are sitting on the couch, and you'll laugh at the same parts, or you'll feel the same suspense at the same scene, or like you'll feel like you're experiencing the same emotion.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
I haven't watched movies in a long time, and I haven't had friends in a long time. But I used to watch movies and stuff, and I don't know. Like I was dating this one girl, and she liked to watch like romance movies. Like I like to feel what they're feeling. And it's just like a total fe thing, and like I don't get it at all.
Or even something like Die Hard or Raiders of the Lost Ark or like a suspense film. Like for me,
Yeah,
the experience is different watching it by myself than watching it with even one other person. There's an added element to it where I can feel the scenes differently when there's another person experiencing the same thing.
not really. I mean, I would feel some emotion, I guess, watching it. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I think LSD is what kind of killed movies for me and like fiction and stuff. Like, 'cause you just kind of see it as a way of programming and get you to kind of, you know, think a certain way. Like I used to be like all like superheroes and the Avengers and stuff, but now it's just, it's just a gimmick, really. I think people are finally starting to get tired of like superhero movies and stuff like that. Well, they've done them to death for one, but I don't know. There's not really a lot of art or actual acting in movies anymore. They just completely rely on CGI.
That's what I hear. I haven't really watched movies in years. I don't watch superhero movies at all. I watched
Yeah.
Doctor Strange the other day with some friends, and it was okay. It was decent. It was better than I expected it to be, and I enjoyed it. But it didn't make me want to go out and watch a bunch of superhero movies. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride. You ride the ride once, you get your little thrill, and then you
Yeah.
move on.
I don't know. I remember like when the first Avengers movie came out, like, oh, it's so amazing. I watched it like 3 times and stuff like that. Now I haven't even watched the last two, and people look at me like, I don't know. I
I
was
don't know if I've ever seen. Is that the X-Men or
No,
is
the
that
Avengers is
something
like
different?
Captain America, Iron Man,
I don't
Thor.
think I've seen them at all. I watched one X-Men because somebody said it was a good allegory of gifted people. So I watched it for that. And it was okay. I don't remember anything about it or even which one I watched.
Oh, because their school is something like I forgot the name of the
Yeah,
school.
Professor X and the School for the Gifted or something.
Yeah, but they're just mutants, and mutants are just have a different genetic code than regular humans, or Homo sapien versus Homo superior, and they're gifted with their powers, but they're
And the world is trying to
like a
suppress
giant
that
witch
or
hunt, basically.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely need to get some friends. I know it's just I don't know.
Dark
I'm on
times.
different wavelengths than most people. I guess I have internet friends, so that kind of counts. I
My
guess
whole
these
social life
days.
is internet since
Yeah.
COVID. I'm trying to find in-person friends, but not having much luck. I don't. I'm not going to find the people here in the small or mid-sized city I'm in that I'm finding on the internet all over the world
Yeah.
at different places.
I even live in Tucson, where there's a million people, and I have trouble finding other people. I guess there's that Rob from Toronto guy. I haven't talked to him a lot, but I guess he lives outside of
I met
Tucson.
Yeah, he's down there. I met a guy at the men's weekend that is on the spectrum, and he lives in Tucson.
Really? What's his name?
Yeah,
Well,
his
maybe I
name's
shouldn't say it here,
Andy.
but Andy?
Yeah,
I know I remember a guy named Anthony, but I don't remember an Andy.
he's an older guy.
Older guy.
But he was the only, as far as I know, the only other autistic person on the weekend. He was a staff member, and so we kind of connected, and he was my kind of support system to help me. I don't know what kind of weekend I would have had or how I would have gotten through it without him. Just
Yeah.
having someone else there to just know what I was going through.
I was curious about them, but it sounded kind of cheesy. Like they go and they give you like this animal name and stuff like that. I don't know about all
Well,
that.
they don't do the animal name anymore because the Lakota complained.
What? Oh,
I know
God.
they don't own animal names, and so they said it's for sensitivity reasons. They don't do animal names, but you can still have an animal name. But the visualization used to be targeted specifically to generate an animal name, and now it's just a general visualization, so it's whatever comes up. So if an animal happens to come up, you can still have it, but most people have other things come up besides animals.
I mean, there's plenty of tribes in Europe and stuff like the Celtics and stuff who are more tuned to nature and pantheistic. It's not like they have that kind of stuff trademarked or anything, you
I
know.
know. You know that. I know that. But for some reason, they convinced the mankind people
I
that
remember they had some
they
like
were causing
saying,
harm.
oh God.
It was. I'm not supposed to say too much about the weekend actually, but it was the revised version. I'll just say, from what I hear, it was a lot different a decade or so ago than the version I got. And I found out that I am eligible to be an elder too in the Mankind Project. So I think I'm gonna explore that path. And I was looking at at their elder material. They have like all of these protocols and different stages of elderhood and different like initiatory paths you can take. And as I was reading it, I was thinking about the Satanism and seeing how I could maybe merge the two and use some of this elder material in developing my Satanism as well. Because one thing that's hard for me being it's called outsider Satanism when you're not part of an official satanic organization, is not having a satanic community. And that's one reason I joined Satanism in the first place, because there was this built-in community with the Satanic Temple, which I realized very shortly after that I didn't really want to be a part of in the first place. But I did want that sense of community that comes from having a religion. And so I'm still trying to find that. And being an outside, it's like having an autistic community. If you have an autistic community, they're not going to be a bunch of people just like you. And
Mm-hmm.
having a bunch of outsider Satanists are not going to be a bunch of people just like you. So it's hard to find community for people that are that individual or individualized and differentiated from other people. And so that's a challenge I'm having with the Satanism. And maybe through Mankind Project, I can find some sense of community, even if it's not completely satanic.
That seems like something you really yearn for, is a sense of community. It seems like you just kind of go from this one community to the next, and you eventually get outs for one reason or another, right?
Yeah, they usually yeah, I usually am having to leave for incompatibility or positive maladjustment, or they blow up because of dysfunction that I didn't pick up on right away. But I've always had community. Like being Cajun, I grew up immersed in community. I lived in a small village. We had a big extended family. We were always doing family cookouts or dinners. Mardi Gras is a communal holiday. So I've never not known community. And that's been probably the number one key ingredient to getting me to where I am today. Like all of the stuff I've been through growing up and even as an adult, I don't think I would have made it through without a support system or a network or some kind of community that's got me through it. So that's always been kind of the thread that's run through my life that's made the difference in my own mental health and my own success. And so I default to community, and I know the power of community. I know what the community can bring to an individual. I know what individuals can bring to community. I know the impact it can have on somebody's well-being and mental health and just
Mm-hmm.
general life satisfaction. People who love their dream of community will destroy community, but the people who love those around them will create community. I love that.
I never really been a part of community. Like my family was never close growing up. They were always like splintered, and there's kind of a lot of infighting and stuff like that. Like we formed our own clans within our family, I guess. And I think my family kind of restricted me on purpose for a lot of reasons. But when I got older, they had a lot of like barbecues and stuff like that, and it was just like, especially after my mom died and my stepdad remarried, and she had a big like family that was part Mexican and stuff like that, and they're big on that kind of thing. And I don't know, just going around like these events, I just went for the food basically. But
You
I don't know, I just don't feel that.
maybe you've never had community. You said that you grew up. You had a sister, but she was younger.
Yeah, I have four sisters technically. Three of them live in Venezuela. I never met, and they're pretty much young enough to
Oh,
be my kids. But I have a sister that's 5 years younger than me, but we never got along all that well.
did you have like in grade school? Did you have friends or a social group on the playground?
Off and on, there's like some school years where I didn't have any friends, and there's usually some school years maybe I had like one or two. I always had to find the other misfit, and there wasn't no misfit around. Then
Mhm.
I was kind of the loner.
Even
When
that's
I got
creative.
like right before like junior high, middle school, they call it middle school now. I was actually had quite a big friend group. That was like the biggest time. Then I don't know. I went to high school. Then that's when I started getting in like metal and wearing black and stuff like that. And I was always accused of being a Satanist, but it kind of kept me from getting bullied. And like that's when
Yeah,
the school shootings started happening with like Columbine. So I just kind of embraced that as a defense mechanism, but something I never really been able to shake my entire life.
yeah, same here. People they left me alone, and I was fine with that. Whatever I
Yeah.
could do to encourage it. Did having that friend group in middle school give you a sense of like belonging to a
Kind
group?
of. Kind of. Well, we play football a lot. I actually found that I was actually pretty athletic. Well, I was always kind of athletic growing up. But yeah, we played football a lot, and that's about all we really did. But I was a part of that. Then when I went to high school, for some reason, I don't know, I didn't click with them anymore for some reason. They still continue playing football, but I don't know. I kind of just drifted off and did my own thing.
Back to being a loner.
Yeah, I don't know. What we started like playing like Magic the Gathering. Like I found like a small group of people. So I guess I did have some friends in high school. We were like just play like Magic the Gathering and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that, or hacky sack.
Gaming
That was
group. I
kind of
have a gaming group now that I consider community, part
yeah.
of my
What kind of games
community.
you play?
Mostly role playing, D&D. We're playing Cthulhu right now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I like getting in that kind of stuff, but there's usually like one or two member in a group that just they get on my nerves, and it kind of
Oh,
ruins it for me. And I
yeah.
get pissed off and I ruin it for everybody else. So I was like, I don't really have time for this anyways.
There's an art to discerning what communities fit for
Yeah.
you. Do you like with your channel and the you have your Discord, do you consider that community or helping to form community?
Yeah, I was really like concentrating on forming it and building it. I just don't have the battery, the juice to kind of keep it up, I guess, long term and just do all these events because this one INFP that I had on Kaseo Chan, who Flow State might be familiar with because
Oh, I think I
CSK,
caught that. I caught some of that one. She's the
yeah,
community builder.
yeah. And she just sitting there says like, well, there's hundreds of MBTI Discord servers, and you got to be, very competitive with it. And there's only like 1,000 people on Discord that are into typology. So there's like jumping around from server to server, and they always just want the next new thing, the next big shiny thing.
Well, it
'Cause-
depends on what your goals are or if you're even trying to compete, but your server is pretty cozy and active.
yeah,
Like they have a few regulars there that keep it going.
yeah, it's cool. I'm grateful for it and stuff. I just don't really know. Like she was going to invite me with just community building kind of like panel that she was going to have with a lot of other like big typology YouTubers and stuff. Like, I don't know if I'd be a fit for that because I really suck at building a community.
You're doing more than, I mean, your server honestly is more active than the ones I have right now. So you're doing, you're whether you are aware of it or not, you are building community. You might Discord irritates me. Yeah, it does a lot of people. You might consider like hosting some hangouts on Discord, or maybe topic related discussions, whatever. But you have a voice and video channel, right, that people can use if they want?
Yeah, I tried doing like weekly typing stuff, like celebrity typings and stuff on there. And I don't know, some people would show up, sometimes nobody would. I
Yeah.
don't know. And I
I
had
run
such a
into the same
hectic
thing.
schedule too. It was just hard to do something. Like I always do, like, hey, anybody on? It's the middle of the night because I work nights and like nobody's awake, you know. So there's some people like on the other side of the world that I talk to sometimes, but
Yeah, it's same here. It's very spotty and hit or miss. I'm constantly trying to get people to watch movies or play games. I tried to do, I can't tell you how many book clubs, activity, things you can do online that are interactive with other people.
yeah.
But you get 2 or 3 people here and there.
You have so many things going on. You have like how many Discord servers? Like 3, 4, 5?
1, 2. Well, I have a bunch of old inactive servers that I still have, but I don't count those. I have my men's server, the gifted server. I have a private server for just kind of. Oh, it says I'm mute. Oh, okay. Oh,
There we go.
I can't.
Yeah, there you go. I hit the wrong mute button. I meant to mute mine because I had a cough.
Oh, I have the men's server, the gifted server. I have a private personal server for just discussion and hanging out with friends. I think that's all my servers. I'm part of a few other servers. I'm a mod on PF Jung's server. He's a YouTuber, and I have friends that have servers that I'm active in too. So I've tried to join some of the larger servers. I really like the Crucible. That's probably my favorite largest server. But they're servers that are overactive. There's just so much going on. Like you have to really pick and choose where to put your attention. Otherwise, you would just be on Discord all day interacting in servers.
Yeah.
So there's some that look cool that but I don't actively participate just because my bandwidth.
Fluff
What do you
State's
mean by
asking.
gifted?
Yeah,
Oh,
you can
go ahead.
explain this better than I can, I'm sure.
By gifted, I mean educationally gifted. It's an educational classification here in the States. I don't know if other countries have it or not, but I was identified as gifted in the first grade. I learn really fast. I was like several grades ahead in reading and math, and I was using like an 8th grade spelling book. I had separate spelling tests, that separate reading. I had a reading group all by myself with just me in it. Um, and then I was put in a gifted program, and then eventually a residential program for the gifted. So it's people that are, I guess, cognitively accelerated in certain areas. I was reading before I was speaking, so I showed up in kindergarten knowing how to read, and everybody else was coloring their alphabet worksheets. So that's what I mean by gifted. And then if you have gifted and also some form of autism or ADHD or neurodivergent, it's called twice exceptional. One exception is the giftedness, and the other exception is the whatever they call it, invisible disability. And it means you get services from both gifted services and special ed services. It's an educational term. You're too old to still identify as a school classification. Well, there's adult gifted. The term carried over into adulthood as well. And same with 2E. 2E is a specific educational technical term, but there are adults that still identify as twice exceptional because it's a shorthand to communicate that you're both gifted and some form of neurodivergence.
Yeah, in school, I always tried to hide that stuff. Like, I was always ahead of people. I'd finish my work a lot quicker, but I didn't really want the attention or the expectation on me. So I just kind of like I'll be content coloring this little alphabet paper. I don't care. I don't want to be doing more stuff than I have to.
I didn't have a choice. I came in sticking out like a giant neon sign. Like I was the first gifted kid my school had ever had. All of the teachers didn't know what to do with me. There was no way for me to hide it, and I didn't even have the concept of hiding it. So I had a lot of support for it, and it was I had like some positive development around that identity very early. So I didn't have the need or the urge to hide it or even the thought to hide it. It did make me a misfit once we moved to that other town in middle school. But there was a gifted program there, so there were other gifted kids, and there were 2 or 3 other gifted people I made friends with, and so I had other people like I wasn't for my first school I was the lone gifted person, but the teachers handled it really well. And in the school where they had other gifted people, I was the misfit, but I had other people to be misfits with.
Yeah.
So I was never really in a situation where it showed up the most was in the workplace as an adult, where you're I told you I had one coworker at one place tell me I was setting too high a standard for the rest of the coworkers, and I have bosses that tell me to slow down or don't work don't work ahead of everybody else, and I don't have a low setting. That's my baseline. So it shows up in the workplace where you're working at an accelerated pace and all of your coworkers are getting irritated, or your boss doesn't know how to supervise you, and you're the only person in the workplace doing that. That's where it showed up the most, as a lone gifted person. But I pretty much had support for it before adulthood.
Yeah, I used to try to excel in certain jobs and stuff, and I'd work ahead, and people like, "How in the hell are you doing all that?" But then I learned the more work you do, the more work they just reward you with. So I learned I'm just going to kind of do the minimum, and I think playing dumb is one of the best tactics I ever used in life. People usually get offended by you if you're more intelligent by it. Like a lot of people like, "Oh, intelligent people are so great," but usually they just get, I don't know, disarmed by it, I think.
That's not my problem. I can't, I'm not going to not be who I am, and I'm not going to apologize for something I have no control over. And I'm intelligent in certain areas. There's other areas that I'm very behind the curve in, that the average person on the street is way more advanced or accelerated than I am. So it's a very spiky profile when it comes to intelligence. So if they want the challenges that come with the intelligence, they're welcome to them. But looking at it from the outside, yes, everything you just said. They think you're arrogant. So they think that you think you're superior to them, which I don't. And gifted people deal with that their whole lives, of the impressions that we make on people that are not gifted. And I don't care about that any more than I cared about the impression I made as a gay person on the people around me. Like, I'm not going to not be gay just because you feel a certain type of way about it. And I'm not going to not embrace my giftedness or my autism or the Satanism or any other part of my identity just because people around me feel a certain way about it.
Yeah, I just didn't really like getting extra responsibility at work. I don't really like the attention on me, I guess. I'd rather just kind of go low key and collect a paycheck and go home. That's what I don't really, my morals don't really align with any company that I've worked with, really. So I really don't care. I guess I look at more like a moralistic standpoint rather than a work ethic standpoint.
And I can't even help it. Like, I can't half-ass something. If I'm doing something, I don't even notice that I'm working it at whatever level I'm working it. I just can't do something of less quality than I know I'm able to put into it. And so I don't even have a choice in it, really. That's why I can't slow down or work less or whatever it is these bosses want me to do.
I just want to remind people who are watching, I'm going out of town again. I'm going camping, so there will be no live stream next week, but I should have one with Dr. Patty Williams, the one that I missed because I got sick and overslept.
Oh, she's coming on.
Yeah, I apologize about that for those people who are wanting to watch. And I know you interviewed her on your channel, right? But you kind of had a falling out in her group.
Yeah, about gift. She's gifted. We talked about giftedness, twice exceptionality. Do you where are you going camping?
The same place I was. It's in the White Mountains in
White
northern Arizona. So yeah, it should be fun to get away, especially get out of this heat. It's been so hot here.
That's what I hear. That's what all my Tucson friends are saying too.
Yeah, it's like 111 here's a high today or something like that, and it's not as bad as Phoenix.
I love that desert heat.
I hate it. I hate it. I just had it my whole life. I think I'm sick of it. Need to change. So what kind of intelligence would you say that you're weak at? I know like there's a big argument how many intelligence they are, and I do think there's more than just like
Mechanical intelligence for sure. I have dyspraxia. I have no coordination or fine muscle control. I can't. I when I had a car, I couldn't change oil or fluid, any base. I can't work appliances. People don't let me in their kitchens when they see me try to use can openers, or like I can work a microwave because all you have to do is mash buttons. I'm not. I'm good at math. I'm hyperlexic, which means I read really well. Like I don't even have to think about reading. My brain just absorbs the words. But math, I'm not hyper numerate. And so I have to really slow down and think about math. And I can do math, but I can't do it at the speed that I can process words. And some people are just really good. They can just do math in their heads without even thinking too much about it. So I do have a high mathematical intelligence, but not at the speed that my verbal intelligence is at. I'm horrible at writing and communicating and expressing myself. Like my brain moves faster than my body, so to slow down and organize it into thoughts that I have to communicate to other people is difficult for me.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I think you were just in the audience when I was doing those personality tests, and like I can't really read out loud because my eyes or my brain is like 2 lines ahead of where my mouth's at. And so I'm always like jumping around the page, kind of like trying to keep on track with it. I don't know. It's kind of weird to explain.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you have some neurodivergence.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely different and never really fit in, but I guess it's just a part of it.
Yeah, but you seem to be doing okay. You like even despite the social stuff, you've found a niche for yourself, which is really all we can do.
Yeah, I guess that's what did people do before the internet? I know you're older. I remember life before the internet, but you're older than me about 10, 12 years, I think. And you have a better recollection of it. Like, what did people like that do before the internet?
I think I was 27 when I got on AOL. So my whole adult, like before that, I had a ton of friends, but I lived in small towns in the South. And in small towns, you find people just connect better because the people that stand out find each other and they form really close bonds. And so I had this little group of misfits that I was always hanging around. And we did a ton of things. We played board games. We went out all the time. We watched movies. We were always over at somebody's house. We had parties all the time. Like it was our house was the hangout house, and I'm the oldest of 4. So I had me, my sister, and my 2 brothers, and each one of them had a large group of friends. So at any given time, there were so many people over at the house, passing either my sister's friends or my brother's friends or my friends, and they would all mix and mingle, and we were like Grand Central Station. And so it was like a frat house kind of. So there was always something to do around me. And then I could go in my bedroom when I needed a break from all that, and I had my own little private space to recharge or read or do whatever I need to do in private. And then when I wanted something to do, all I had to do was go in the living room, and there was probably somebody hanging out. I hate small towns. Lived in one for 5 years, never again. They come with their own challenges, but I find it's easier to create community in small towns as well. They have advantages now looking back that I didn't necessarily realize at the time that I took for granted, especially if they're close to a larger city and you have access to the benefits of a city.
I grew up in a small town of about 6,000 people. Now it's doubled to a whopping 12,000 people or so.
That's a city to me. That was the big city growing up.
Like 6,000 people?
Yeah, ours was like our little village was about 300. And then the town we moved to after that was maybe 1,500, 2,000-ish.
Most of
But
the
it
time
was
I lived on the
scary.
outskirts. I lived in a community about 600 people. Then when I was real young, I lived out, I don't know, in my grandpa's junkyard, basically. He owned a junkyard. I lived like right outside of it. And there was maybe like a dozen people around in a mile radius. So
Oh yeah, that is the boonies. People are too yes, yes, we are. I'm very nosy. Because we had nothing to do. Like we would sit on our porch and watch cars go by, people go by, just try to figure out. Oh, look, there's Miss So and So. Where is she going? Oh, look at Mister Who. What's he up to? And you like everybody knows what everybody's doing in a small town. But I was one of those people too. I loved. I don't know. I just enjoyed. I like people.
like the
But
town
yeah,
I
I have
grew
to
up
know
in,
everything about everything.
like I found out like a new cousin like every week, like, oh, I'm related to you, I'm related to that. So just kind of had to be careful with my breeding selection, I guess, even though it was regulated for me. uh but yeah, I don't know. It was kind of weird. Like I feel more alienated in a town of 1 million people than I do of a small town. Yeah, that's another thing about living in a small town. Like there's just cops who have nothing better to do but harass you. And
They never bothered. But believe it or not, like if there was anybody in the town that they would have bothered, it would be me, and they really didn't. We were on the we were on the drug list, like because I had a lot of friends that were druggies that would hang out at the house. So we somehow ended up on the watch list, and even being on the drug list, they never bothered us.
hey, that cat. Thank you for joining. We're about to wrap it up here in a few. I
Hey,
got to
cat,
get going.
it's that cat.
That cat, yep, that cat over there. Oh, my alarm's going off. I have alarms like set all these weird times I work nights. That's
Oh,
like my
you work
last
tonight?
time to wake up.
You work tonight?
Yeah, I got to get going in about an hour.
Okay.
I got to get ready.
Well, it
it's a
was
good.
good chatting.
Yeah. Check out Gen X Jeff's channel. We're kind of streaming on both. Oh, they rated you. I got to get you on Flow. Stay.
Yeah,
I'll
I
be
was about
going
to
out of
say I
town.
want to hear Flo's story. You gotta get him on.
Yeah. Oh, they rated you. Wow. You're that got that ESTP vibe though, I guess.
How big was your town, Flo? Yeah, my experience is as long as you were behaving and not calling too much attention to yourself or causing a ruckus, the cops pretty much left you alone because the cops knew everybody in the town too. They didn't want to start something that was going to come back on them either.
Yeah, I remember I was driving around with my cousin right when we turned 18. He had his dad's old truck. It was like a 1969 Chevy something or another, and we were young, and he didn't know how to drive it very well. It had like a race car engine or something. I don't know about cars and stuff all that much, but I guess the pedal something happened, and he just like floored it on accident. And this cop pulled us over, and he told us like, "Oh, just because you guys are so young, your license aren't actually valid." He made us park the truck, and we had to like walk all the way across town to hit my
What?
cousin's friend's house and stuff like that. And it was just I don't know, it was weird. But that was the only problems I really had with police. But yeah, I was always a weird one with the long hair walking around, I guess. Said about
Yeah,
6,000.
same here. And they left me. Where I counted the police the most is my mom was always calling the police to kick me out of the house, like as a form of discipline. And so I'd be like sitting watching TV, and next thing I know, police cars show up and they start throwing my stuff out because she called them. And that's where I encounter the police more than anything.
Yeah.
It's from my own mom.
My mom never called the police on me, thankfully. But yeah, surprised she didn't. That cat, you're looking to properly getting typed. They do have a typing service. I don't know if you're referring to me. You can go down in the description and go ahead and find a way to contact me. And yeah, outsiders. I remember, oh man, I used to go to California sometimes with my family, and we'd go to Yuma, Arizona. Every time we'd walk into Denny's, like the people there would just stare at us. It's mostly older
What?
people, like, and it was like, right on the freeway. So a lot of travelers are going through there. Just like we always stop there every time, and people just eyeing me like it's weird.
Because you weren't one of the regulars.
Yeah,
Oh.
but it was right off the freeway, like I said, on an interstate. So it's gonna have a lot of travelers going through. All right.
That's
Well,
fun.
I think you have anything else you want to say? I'm about a good spot. Stopping
No,
point.
I enjoyed the conversation. Anytime.
All right. Thank you, that cat and Flow State. Anybody else in the audience I didn't see on Jeff's end? Thank you all for joining.